My next guest almost died at just 13 years old when she was jet skiing and hit by a boat, leaving her with lifelong injuries and the loss of her right leg. It was determined that the driver of the boat was under the influence of alcohol. But Otte was motivated and determined to never let this happen to anyone else. And at age 24, she became the youngest president ever appointed to Mothers Against Drunk Driving and has made it her mission to be an advocate for injured victims and those killed as a result of impaired driving. Here's her story.
I remember July 2nd of 2010 like it was yesterday. I was 13 years old, and my family and I were down at the lake getting our boat set up for the July 4th holiday weekend. I was sitting still on a jet ski. I waited for a 17-foot bass boat to pass down the middle of the lake, but he didn't. He turned and hit my jet ski from the side, threw me off the jet ski. I landed face down in the water. The boat went up over the jet ski and landed on top of my body. I was unconscious at the time and have no memory of the crash. I'm told that I was loaded into a trauma helicopter and flown to the level 1 trauma hospital in Kentucky. I was in a coma for a week and had 8 emergency surgeries in the first 7 days. My parents were told to say goodbye as there was no way I'd survive. I had severe injuries from head to toe, including a traumatic brain injury, and my right leg was almost completely severed by the propeller. I pulled through, but as a 13-year-old girl, I had to learn how to walk and read for what felt like the first time. Fish and wildlife officers discovered that the man who ran me over was under the influence of alcohol. Recovery will truly never end for me. I still deal with every single one of my injuries to this day. I wanted to be the last little girl this would ever happen to, and so I decided to become an advocate for injured victims and those killed as a result of impaired driving. My hope is that my voice and my motivation to fight this will help us reach a day when no other child is forced to be in my situation.
Otte is here with me in studio. Tam Fam, let's welcome her to our show. Thank you. It's truly amazing. Look at that. Oh, boy. You know, look, you got a standing ovation and you haven't said a word yet out of your mouth. That's proof positive that your story means something, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us. I heard you say that you are still living day to day with the trauma of this accident, both physically and mentally. What is life like now for you?
Life is good.
Yeah.
I say there are good days and bad days, and most of the time the good days outweigh the bad, but not all the time. And I still live with and suffer from every single one of my injuries.
For perspective, the person who hit you was charged with boating under the influence of alcohol. He had to pay a $250 fine, but he was never sentenced to any jail time. And for, as you heard the audience, and for many, that was a small price to pay for what happened to you. How did you process that, even at your young age?
It was difficult, and it's still difficult now. You know, I have long forgiven the man that did this for my own reasons, but it's not something you're gonna get over.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're gonna live through. And the hardest part for me has always been that he gets to forget.
Oh.
$250, you can forget that. It's been 12 years. I have no doubt that there are days he wakes up and thinks about the fact that he almost killed me. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But the fact is, there will never be a single second that I get to forget what he did to me.
First of all, you just said so many remarkable things, that you've forgiven this person. But what you've also done is that you decided early on that this would not happen to anyone else if you could do something about it. So this happened when you were 13, but in high school, you got involved with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. There's one thing to get involved. You were hands-on, active involved. Why did you see that as your avenue to make change?
A lot of people aren't in a place where they can talk about what happened. It's hard, it's traumatic, and it doesn't get better. And I just knew that if I didn't keep talking about it, it was going to keep happening to other people. And it's not something we're looking for a cure for. Yeah. It's a choice. It's not an accident, it's not a mistake. So it never had to happen in the first place. And I knew we could get to a place where it didn't happen. I believed that that place would be for my grandkids or great-grandkids in a long time. But I knew that I could be a part of making sure it didn't happen anymore by sharing what happened to me and making people realize the consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
And the most time, these consequences are for other innocent people.
Up next, Alex talks about the life-saving legislation she helped to get passed into law and that she's hoping will drastically reduce the number one killer of Americans on the road, drunk driving. Don't go away. Welcome back. I am here with Alex Otte, who is an advocate for injured victims and those killed as a result of impaired driving. Alex was just 13 years old when she was hit by a man who was found guilty of operating a boat under the influence of alcohol, which left her with lifelong injuries and the loss of her right leg. But Alex was motivated and determined to never let that happen to anyone else and went on to become the youngest president ever to be appointed to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Madam President, I should call you. Madam President, you're not just the youngest, you're youngest by like 3 decades?
By a lot, yes.
Like the youngest with 35 years? That's incredible. You're 25 now. You've had such a positive response to your leadership. In particular, you're working on legislation, the HALT Act, which was recently passed in Congress and signed into law by the president, and it's been instrumental in saving lives. What do you want to see happen next here?
There are so many things. Legislation can only take us so far. So in general, I want people to understand that it comes down to personal responsibility. But this legislation is going to change how cars are made. And who can say that they've been a part of that? And so this legislation puts drunk driving prevention technology as standard equipment in all new cars, as standard as seatbelts and airbags. And the Insurance and Superhighway Safety estimates that once this technology is in all new cars and old cars are phased out and things like that, it will save an estimated 9,400 lives every year. Wow. We know that right now, an average of 10,000 people are being killed every year and more than 300,000 are injured. This legislation can essentially eliminate drunk driving. Wow. And that is incredible, but it's been an experience for sure.
I mean, you look back, a 13-year-old child experiences an unimaginable trauma, and you are now this incredible, transformational woman. It's like a movie. I don't like saying that, but it is so surreal, even just reading the story. I think you need to run for office. I do, because the world would be a better place with people like you. Thank you so much. It's exceptional to turn that type of pain and be motivated to help others, and you've done it. And I applaud everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.